And the Edmonton Eskimos, wonderful experience. I went on the board in 2005, won the Grey Cup. I thought, this is easy, I'm 1 for 1, we're on a roll. And it's been a little tougher since then, but we're climbing back, and we actually have the Grey Cup here in Edmonton this year, and I'm certainly looking forward to cheering the Eskimos on in that game. And if there's a way, I think there is a way, actually, we talked about it, how to get Saskatchewan here, because they are a real boost to your economy. Every bar and hotel will be full. So we want Saskatchewan, we want to win the West. Saskatchewan crosses over into the East, wins the East, and then we'll play Saskatchewan in the Grey Cup. How's that sound, Rick? Good? And I was going to wear my Grey Cup ring today, but I couldn't lift my arm, so I left it at home. But anyway, it's been a wonderful experience there. Some of my family, my mother Jessie is here today. She's British, or was. She's very much Canadian now. And she came over to Canada to join us Canadians right after the war and had her little bundle of joy, me, on January 2nd, 1947. And I always tell everybody I was the New Year's baby in Yorkton on the 2nd. And I don't know whether that was ever true, Mum, but it's a good story. She says no. But she always says she kept me, we lived on my grandfather's homestead or farm 11 miles east of Yorkton, and she used to keep me in a box on the stove. Now, you said on the stove, and I thought, you know, I guess that's why I can take the heat, Mum. But her life has always been about other people, and she's taught me to pay respect to other people at all times. My late father, Ivan, he was a consummate entrepreneur. You want something, son, go work for it. Don't come and talk to me. So I learned my lessons from him. My sister Maureen is here today, and my brother Terry and Kevin couldn't make it. But there was 4 of us in the family. Now we had an interesting start to our family life because the whole family was quarantined after the war and locked up in Fort San in Saskatchewan. And then they let us out at various times. Hard to keep a family together when they don't let you out at once. But Mom and Dad and Terry and Maureen and myself were all quarantined with tuberculosis. And so we had a bit of a rough start, but I think that really melded us together as time went on. My immediate family, Joanne, I met Joanne when I went to Moose Jaw my brother and I went to Moose Jaw in about 1965 or 6 to play hockey, and he played for the junior team there, and I went over and played for the Moose Jaw Playmores, the senior team in the old Western League, and because I made more money and I could go to school. And I'll tell you why I wanted to do that in a minute. It was something that we had a lot of fun doing, but I met Joanne, and I always say she was a hockey groupie, but I think I was more a figure skating groupie because she was a figure skater, and they were far better looking than the hockey players. So she's been always extremely supportive of me, and I'm very blessed to have her. Another little interesting story, though, we were at Kelowna not too long ago, and they had this, it was a wedding, and we had this dance, and they said everybody's been married for less than 5 years, sit down. And we're dancing, and there's people on their walkers and canes and everything else, and you know how this one's going to end, but everybody under 40 years sit down, and everybody sat down there, just Joanne and I left. So, but we could still dance, and we didn't have our walkers up there, so she's hauling me off to Hawaii on Sunday, so we're really looking forward to that. My daughter Stacy is here. Stacy came in from Vancouver today. She's a high-powered banker in Vancouver and an accountant, former accountant that didn't like accounting and sorry about the accounting folks here, but no animosity there, I'm sure. But she decided banking was going to be more fun, so and she got married out in Vancouver. I think she moved there in 92? Yeah, 92. And she was only 6 at the time. And she married a wonderful young man, Graham, and they blessed us with 2 little grandkiddies, Maddie and Chrissy. So they're going to come over and stay with us in Hawaii. My son, Jeff, is here. Jeff is now an old-timers hockey player as well. He's reached the golden age, and I'd like to tell everybody that I have one more goal than him this year so far. So, and his lovely wife Michelle, and Michelle has blessed us with a little granddaughter, Addison, and we didn't want to bring her today because she would have this place turned upside down. So she's just coming 3. So that's our family. I want to talk about how your character builds over time. But I was born in Yorkton. We moved to Melville. My father was a jeweler and owned his own jewelry store in Melville. And then I finished high school there, and we went off to Moose Jaw, where I went to college, and my brother and I, and met Joanne and got married in Moose Jaw, and that was 1966, 67, and 68. And then I moved on to Saskatoon, and the picture on the video, actually, where you're talking about the Melville Millionaires, which was my junior team, that was the Saskatoon Quakers, actually, the senior team, so that's the one I played for there. So I was in Saskatoon, and I played there 3 years, 69, 70, and 71. And then off to Calgary in 1971, and after that, I was appointed a branch manager in Medicine Hat, Alberta, a wonderful community. And Medicine Hat was where our son Jeff was born. Actually, Stacy was born in Saskatoon. Jeff was born in Medicine Hat. And then in 76, we moved up to Edmonton and really enjoyed Edmonton. We were in Edmonton for 9 years. And then I went off to the center of the universe, Toronto. And actually, we really enjoyed Toronto. We lived in Oakville. I worked right downtown, and I had a great experience in Toronto. And I'm not sure that my career would have gone this direction had I not spent the 3 years there that I did. And then back to Calgary in 1988, and I was head of Lloyd's Bank Canada for Western Canada, which eventually all the branches and the organization was acquired by HSBC and became HSBC. So that's the history there. And in 1990, I joined Canadian Western Bank. I came up here quite by accident. Our president at Lloyd's had called me in Calgary, and he said, I can't make this meeting with this bank in Edmonton, Canadian Western, and we're talking about doing an interbank line. Could you go up and see their president, David Emerson? So I said, sure. So I headed up to Edmonton and sat down with David, and 10 minutes into the conversation, he says, do you want a job? And I said, I got one. And he says, well, do you want a job? And I said, what job? And he said, my job. Well, that's interesting. And so we kind of hit it off, and I was actually interviewed by Howard Peckett and Robert Manning, who's here today, and we struck it quite well, and here I am. I started on my birthday, January 2nd, 1990. And then I got thinking about how many jobs have I had? Well, I've had jobs as a paper boy, a garden digger, a gopher trapper, because you used to get a nickel for the tails. And the elevators would pay you 5 cents in Melville, so the more gophers you could come up with. And then, of course, Dad wouldn't give us any .22 shells, so he showed me how to hunt gophers with a bow and arrow. And so that was interesting. But then we decided to go upscale and started a trap line for rabbits. My brother and I were going to trap these rabbits and clean the hides up, and because they were starting to wear rabbit fur at that time. But we mostly caught skunks, and so that didn't work out too well. So on I went. I became a watchmaker. Dad said, well, you can fix watches, and being a railroad town, everybody had to have a railroad watch. In those days, they went tick, 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 and you had to take them apart and clean them and oil them and all those good things. So he taught me how to do that. And I decided that wasn't for me. But I was going from 10 o'clock at night to 7 in the morning with nothing to do other than sleep. So my brother and I got a job catching chickens in chicken farms. And what they did is put a blue light on them, and you went and gathered them all up because they were hypnotized, and you put them in these crates, and they shipped them off for processing. So we got that job, so that kind of filled up the nights.